I'm Nige.
And Amanda's welcome to another episode of Pimp My Beer Kit. You get your beer kit and you do what you can with it, but sometimes you like the basis, but you want to tweak it. We've done a little series so far of um, your different sugars and fermentables that you can add
And yeast, how that
and
connects up
yeast.
with
Absolutely. Um, what we're covering this time then, Nige?
hops.
It's no surprise, I suppose, is it?
No.
Yeah, hops.
So yeah,
Integral
I'd like to.
into the. Sorry.
I've got a new studio.
Oh, okay, nice.
Mrs. Nige chucked me out the last space.
Oh,
Look too messy because I've got this space quite messy now, but I've only just I'm not had time to tart it, pimp it up, as you may say yet.
in time, eh? So
Anyway,
anyway, we're talking about hops, which I think on a surface is probably one of the biggest ways that you can change the taste of your
well, I
beer.
wouldn't say big is it. I think each factor will have a big impact, whether
Yeah,
it's the yeast, uh, the fermentables,
true.
and the hops. Yes, it can have a big impact.
Yeah,
Uh, Before we came on air, Anders started throwing out all these terms about hops and things. It's world calling. What's this? What's that? So I think before I talk about hops, I'll talk about how hops are usually used when you're brewing from grains, and then we can see how we can adapt it to
that's
uh,
seems a
the
great
beer
idea.
kits.
Yeah, okay.
Uh, Traditionally, you have you've done your mash with all the grain, and that liquid is left over. Uh, that's like your malt things that you get with the kits, diluted but without any hops in yet.
Mhm.
Now, what they do, your beer kits will then have, when they're manufacturing, they'll have hops put into that, and then they'll basically reduce all the water out, so you've got this thick, gluey
Yes.
mush, which you then add water to rehydrate. Now, the stage after the mash, where you've got your the fermentable liquid that you extracted the sugar from the grain, is called the boil. Now,
Yeah.
we have hops are used in a couple of ways in this. You've got, well, there's three ways. You've got bittering hops, flavoring hops, and aroma hops. That's
Mhm.
basically the three areas of the hops. Now, your bittering hops go in first, and they're boiled for longer,
Yeah.
uh, and that makes it very bitter. Your flavoring hops, they go in about anywhere between 15 minutes to 5 minutes to even when you put the flame out on the boil.
Yeah.
And they'll they'll add bittering to it a little bit,
Mhm.
but not as much as the ones that have been in for half an hour or an hour. And they will add a lot more flavor. That's when you start getting the fruity aromas from your your American hops or your earthiness from your British hops like Fuggles and things,
Mhm.
and the citrus from something like Admiral hops or something, which gives a nice orangey flavour. Uh, Now, once you've done that, usually you then cool it down. But the whirlpool is when you're cooling it down. So you might put hops in while the temperature's dropping when you're trying to get the temperature down.
Yeah, okay.
Because at the end of the boil, when you've finished hopping, you want to get the temperature down as much as possible quickly to stop the heat of the liquid turning more of the oils to really bitter. So you might
Yeah.
lose the flavoring if you don't get the temperature down quickly. But hops can be added at that stage, or sometimes they bring the hops down to about 85 degrees or 80 degrees or something, and they'll put a load of hops in and hold that there for 10, 15 minutes. That does allow a little bit more flavor, but you get a lot more aroma type things coming through on your beer. And then you ferment it, and at the end of fermentation, you might add some hops. Then you might add a few more hops. Uh, and some people, even when they'll take that, they'll barrel it, and some people put hops in the barrel. Just
Really? Never come across that before. No.
uh, the when we come in with our home brews and our kits, usually pick it up from the dry hopping stage.
Yeah.
But there's a number of things you can do with dry hopping. But I want to go back a stage first. If you're really ambitious, you can actually, if you've got a very basic beer kit, it's not bitter enough, you can actually get, while you're making the beer kit, boil up some water, put some hops in, and boil it for half an hour. Then use that liquid, take the hops out, and pour that liquid into, and that'll add more hop to your,
Okay.
more bitterness to your beer.
Okay.
Now you don't have to
So
have
like
a
a tea
huge.
bag. Yeah.
No, no, that's coming
No,
later.
that's coming later. Do beg your pardon. Right. Okay.
Uh, where was I?
Sorry. So your
Yeah,
world
so
shop.
that's an
Yeah.
option if you want to, or you might just get a 15-minute boil with the hops if you want more
Mhm.
flavors. That is an option. I've not tried that much. Well, I've done it with grain brewing when I've done it from the whole process, but I've not tried that with the beer kit. I can't see why it wouldn't work.
No.
You also have, we'll go to the dry hopping now. This is where your different hops add, you get that aroma. When you open the bottle and pour it, you get that lovely aroma that fills a room. That's your dry hopping that does that most of the time.
Mm.
There's different hops you'd use for different beers. Like for a lager, dry hopping, you might want to use SARS hops, which are a traditional European hop. Put
Yeah.
100 grams of that in. It's not a particularly, it's not high in oil, so it's not huge on the bittering front, that hop. And when you're making lager, you have to use loads of this stuff to get flavor out of it, especially brewing on the stove. Uh, Stirring Goldings, I've used for lagers as well. I quite like that.
Really?
Uh,
Okay.
but there's loads and loads of hops you can dry hop your lagers with.
Yeah.
For your best bitters and pale ales and English IPAs, 100 grams of fuckles in at the end to dry hop.
Yeah.
Once fermentation stops, you want to put those hops in and just leave them for a couple of
I
days.
suppose something like East Kent
East Kent
Goldings
Goldings,
with bitters as well.
Challenger, all these British hops. I
Yeah.
say Fuggles because that's quite cheap to buy those ones. And
Yeah.
I do like Fuggles. It's quite earthy. It's got a little bit citrusy. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Uh, for your American IPAs, these hops are a little bit more expensive, but you can take just a really basic pale ale kit or uh, American IPA low
Yeah.
ABV something, and usually the cheaper range of the kits, these are the ones that lend themselves to really pimping up. But you've got Citra, Mosaic, Centennial, Chinook, Simcoe, Summit, Amarillo. They're some of my favorite hops, which
Mm.
I use. They're sort of grapefruity, citrusy. Wow, lots of loveliness there. Adding that as a dry hop makes a massive, massive difference to your beer. I've done that with some cheaper kits in the past. And yeah, I can't remember. I did it on the channel with one of the beers. I think I dry hopped it with it. And the first thing I did when I tasted it, I ordered another kit straight away because it was so good.
Okay.
It might be Better Brew or something, Better Brew Pale Ale, or I can't remember, I really can't. Uh, Now, making a tea bag for your hops. I'm avoiding using that phrase, Anders, because people were quite shocked last time. You can get a hop bag, which is a
Yes.
really fine mesh.
Yes.
A nut bag does that sometimes. I say that
Yeah.
because when people are straining nuts to make vegan stuff, like
Yes.
often son-in-law were doing it. They had to buy a nut bag, but they're perfect for it because it's a really fine mesh. Uh, so you put your
Yes.
hops in there, tie a knot in it, and you can chuck that in. And if you're not cold crashing your beer, I'll talk about that in a minute.
Hmm.
Put your hops when you're dry hopping in something because it'll be less messy in the bottling process
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
because you get bits coming up. Yeah, it creates all sorts of problems. So where was I with?
You're going to go down to we've done dry hopping. You were going to talk about cold
Yes,
crack.
put your hops into the make a tea bag from your hops in the bag,
Yeah.
and what you do, you put it in a bowl, which is you've sterilised. You put it
Hmm.
in a bowl, boil the kettle, pour that on. So it was and leave it for about 5-10 minutes, and that gets the hops a little bit activated, and it'll add a little bit more bitterness to it. Very little because you haven't got the quantity of water there to, but
Hmm.
that'll the Bulldog Brew kits. That's how they always recommend
That's indeed they do. Yes.
dry hop when they come to the dry hopping bit. That's what they do. They take a little tea bag and you pour the water on them, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You put the whole lot in with the water.
Yeah.
Uh, I've had some great beers from Bulldog Brews with their Evil Dog.
Let's.
I've
Yeah.
got have hopped at the right stage. So that's tea bagging.
Yeah. Let's move on to cold crashing, shall we?
Yes, cold crashing.
Cold crashing.
I've I've had a couple of disastrous brews. Stranders was up the weekend because there was a big party, an engagement party for my son and his fiance.
Hmm.
And there was two beers. I didn't cold crash a whole 2 or 3 batches of my grain brew. And as a result, there was loads more sediment in bottles. When I opened it all, I had bits in it. It was horrible.
Mm.
Two brews, yeah, out the window. When you cold crash, you take your whole, when the fermentation stopped, it might be 1 or 2 days into, dry hopping.
Hmm.
Take the whole out, put it in the fridge. It's worth having a separate fridge because Mrs. Nigel wouldn't have allowed that in our proper fridge because I would have had to take everything out, which I'd be justified because beer is more important than cheese and things like that.
You got
So
shit.
anyway, uh, put the whole barrel in, 48 hours. You can bottle it after 24, but I find 48 hours. Uh, Everything drops down to the bottom. And if you dry hopped without putting it in a bag, all the hot particles fall to the bottom.
Okay.
Uh, and it's much easier siphoning it off into the bottles, or as I do, into another fermenter to batch, prime, and then into bottles.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well.
I think cold crashing, if you've got the if you've got the fridge space to do it, makes such an impact on your finished product in the bottle. The first thing you notice when you've cold crashed, you have so little sediment in the bottle. In fact, you can almost pour. Sometimes you can pour it almost all out, just like the commercial what do you call it, bottle conditioned beers. And the beer clears much quicker in the bottle, and it's ready to drink much quicker.
Okay, that's good to know. That's interesting to know. Right. Right. That's been quite a tricky episode. Um, on the basis that I'm not drinking during the weeks at the moment, and you've given me all of these hops and things. And and you
Uh,
mentioned Bulldog Brew.
And it's very hot today, isn't it?
It's very hot. I want a hammer of Thor so much. Um, but there we go. That's hops. I think I've been magnificent in that episode. Um, Nige, in fairness, is the font of all knowledge when it comes to this sort of thing. Um, but yeah, let us know what you do. Let us know how you hop. Do you
Yes,
add hops
always
earlier?
open to new ideas, tips, and things. There's
Always.
I could go on forever, the little minute. Yeah, but just
Yeah,
tell us what you do. Things that
indeed.
work for you. We've had some great ideas on other things, and there's some great recipes for pimping up your beer.
Honestly, yeah,
And they look amazing, but I can't try them all. But I'm going to try some.
we're trying some, absolutely. So, well, thank you for watching. I hope you got something out of this. We'll see you again. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.
Goodbye.